Hey, good afternoon, folks. I'm Brigadier General Mike Bobeck from the Army National Guard, represent our Acting Director, Major General Judd Lyons. On behalf of the Army National Guard and the Aviation Program, thank you for being here today. My cohort in crime this afternoon will be Colonel Mark Weiss, our Aviation Division Chief. Unfortunately, Major General retired Les Eisner is sitting on the ramp at Charlotte Airport, as he's been for the last 3 hours trying to get out of Charlotte and get here. So he expresses his sincere desire to be here. I know Jim Barkley back there has probably gotten 20 emails from him expressing that frustration to be stuck there as an aviator. But he wishes he could be here, and he does send his regrets. Before we kick off, I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes and watch this video. If you could start that, please. Rick.
There it is, Jeff. 10,000. 10,000 hours.
Great video. Well, good afternoon again. I'm Brigadier General Mike Bobeck. I represent the Director of the Army National Guard, Major General Judd Lyons, our Acting Director. And on behalf of him and our Army National Guard Aviation team, I want to thank you for being here today. My battle buddy Mark Weiss, our Aviation Division Chief, and I have got some prepared remarks. We're going to talk a little bit about the Army National Guard Dual Mission Force, and then we'll open it up for some questions and hopefully some good answers. Mark?
Sure. Clearly, I'm not General Eisner, so I'm Colonel Weiss. Hey, let me start by saying the Army National Guard, what it is. It's a collection of professional soldiers, modern aircraft, proficient units that belong to two teams, the Army team and the National Guard team. In fact, each Guardsman holds two memberships, in terms of both their National Guard of their state, for their state roles and missions, as well as the Army National Guard of the United States for their federal role and missions. This reflects truly a dual-use nature of the Army National Guard. In peacetime, it's forward-deployed, geographically dispersed, community-based, and immediately responsive aviation force, able to dominate the human terrain in the civil support fight. In wartime, it's a collection of competent and relevant Army organized units ready to join similar active component aviation units in supporting combat requirements of the geographical combatant commanders. That's a mouthful, we realize that, and we're going to break it down for you for the next 30 minutes or so. Note that on the slide behind me, the yellow-coded or colored icons are the Army National Guard Aviation Team, representing a significant portion of the total Army Aviation Force. Sir?
First, let's discuss what we do for the Army. When necessary, the President of the United States federalizes or mobilizes those portions of the Army National Guard that he feels are necessary to support combat operations. Prior to this, in a peacetime environment, our Guard force spends most of their time and a good deal of the money, which is provided by the federal government, training for our wartime contingencies. For aviation, that means practicing air assaults, close combat operations, medevac, and attack helicopter operations. It means qualifying on our personal weapons, studying potential adversaries and operating environments, and keeping proficient in all our wartime skills. Our National Guard pilots and crews maintain the same standards, same minimum hours as our active duty counterparts. All this practice and preparation pays off when we mobilize and deploy, as you've seen the results over the past 12 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is not your grandfather's Army National Guard. If by chance your grandfather served in the National Guard during the 50s and 60s, and even in the late 90s, there's a good chance he did not see combat unless he had prior service and active duty. The Guard was a strategic reserve force, only to be employed if World War III erupted, and thankfully it never did. However, in the past 12 years, virtually every National Guard aviation unit has been mobilized and is deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan for combat operations. No more relaxed training periods. The Army Guard was forced and readily accepted the mission of providing operational depth to the Army and deployed its tactical units identical to those of the active component. In fact, Guard, Chinook helicopters, and medevacs were among the first to enter Iraq in 2003. Mark?
So Guard attack reconnaissance battalions, cavalry squadrons, general support aviation battalions, and assault helicopter battalions, all organized, manned, trained, and equipped, just like their AC counterparts. Deployed to OEF, OEF, and Kosovo in great numbers. And in almost every case, a casual bystander could not tell the difference between an AC unit and a Guard unit. Guard units conducted the same wide range of missions as their AC counterparts did, from personnel transport ring routes to support of Special Forces units. In some instances, Guard units became experts in a particular tactical niche. For instance, in the first of the 151 Army Attack Reconnaissance Battalion from the great state of South Carolina, it's developed shipboard and overwater tactics off the coast of Kuwait, and it's become the Army's resident experts in this operational environment and mission. Likewise, specialized fixed-wing capabilities of Odin and Caesar have been largely manned by Army National Guard air crews. The courage of our Guard aviators has been on display on a daily basis. For example, the first out of the 149 of the great state of Texas, Texas Army National Guard, while supporting multinational corps in Iraq, earned over 12 distinguished flying crosses during its deployment to Balad in 2006 and 2007. Today's tactical organizations are fully transformed and share the same MTOs as their AC counterparts. They fly the same aircraft, H-64 Longbows, UH-60 Alpha, Lima, and Mike Blackhawks, OH-58D Kiowa Warriors, and the venerable CH-47D and Foxtrot Chinooks. Over the next 4 years, our CH-47 modernization will be complete. And although the Black Hawk modernization will take somewhat longer, but eventually all UH-60s in the Guard will be L digitals or Mike models. Sir?
As much as we are like our AC counterparts, our dual mission makes us a little bit different. In peacetime, we serve our governors rather than the Secretary of Defense. As we prepare for war, we stay vigilant for an immediate response needed to support our civilian authorities, as they are the lead effort in any disaster relief. The images of Hurricane Katrina, while 9 years distant, still resonate among us. The elderly citizen being hoisted from her flooded home by a National Guard Huey, drinking water being flown by a National Guard Black Hawk, or barrier material being delivered to critical levees by a National Guard Chinook. In fact, our civil support doctrine is well developed and sound. Our state aviation officers have established close working relationships with their local civilian authorities, and there's no bureaucratic obstacle to our immediate response. Use of Guard assets avoids the pitfall of posse comitatus, and Northcom support is only sought in the extremists. Whenever possible, Guard assets remain in state active duty or Title 32 status, giving them the flexibility to support the widest range of civil support missions and authorities. This is proven daily and more recently by our southwest border, in the southwest border of the United States, where our Army National Guard Aviation is supporting the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency with aerial detection and monitoring capabilities in the form of security and support battalions and companies. Now let's look at, give you a civilian support operation scenario to an unanticipated disaster. In an anticipated response, we would look just the same, we just get a little bit more time for planning. When it's safe to conduct aviation operations, such as a hurricane that's passed, in-state aviations would respond to mission requests from the Joint Force Headquarters. These forces are embedded or connected with the state emergency management centers. Each of the 54 have one. Local in-state resources would be applied as necessary to the limits of that state's capability. When the magnitude of that response requires or exceeds the state's capability or capacity, emergency management assistant compacts, or EMACs, kick in. These are previously arranged legal agreements between states that pledge specific report. In the event that that required response cannot be generated within the states affected by this disaster. Aircraft from supporting states deploy and launch the supported state under the parent unit's mission approval process, but once they arrive, they go through an RSOI process, a reception staging, and associated onward integration, and then they fall under the operational control of that state leadership for the accomplishment of the missions. And if existing EMACs don't support the requirements, then National Guard Bureau calls on its nationwide capacity to assist in supporting the state. And that's where NGB kicks in, and then we use our capabilities and work with other states to bring additional help. Mark?
Let's make no mistake about it. The National Guard Bureau, located at Arlington Hall Station in Virginia, it's not a headquarters. It does not affect command and control over the 54 states, territories, or district. They do, however, affect coordination and communications among the 54 entities. And for the Army National Guard Aviation, this is done through the Aviation and Safety Division in our Aviation Coordination Center. In any multi-state, regional, or large-scale response scenario, the AVCC immediately provides centralized information gathering, operational analysis, and decision-making capabilities to effectively source, allocate, and apply Guard aviation resources to the states. The AVCC Crisis Action Team aggressively staffs and accurately responds to all requests for assistance and all requests for information in a timely manner, and helps implement a tiered response, expanding response and scope as resources as necessary, in accordance with O-Plan Busted Windsock. Busted Windsock framework applies to all hazard events, floods, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, with regional implications, and employs force pools that incrementally address anticipated requirements. In FY13, Army Guard Aviation executed over 29,000 flight hours in support of domestic operations across the country. While no major hurricanes of Category 3 or above made landfall on the continental United States in 2013, Hurricane Sandy, a Category 1 winter storm, made landfall and hit a direct impact on several northeastern states, causing significant flooding in parts of New Jersey and New York. In preparation, the Army Guard Aviation Team worked with state aviation officers to build a force pool of over 231 aircraft, rotary wing aircraft, and 20 fixed-wing aircraft to support the affected states on a short notice, once again proving the National Guard's always ready, always there motto. Guard aviation capabilities and capacities to conduct civil support operations here at home are extensive. The UH-72 Lakota was specifically procured for domestic operations and is optimally equipped with an impressive mission equipment package. Our Black Hawk and Chinook fleets are likewise very capable civil support platforms, but we are constantly looking for new solutions and improvements. Whether it's new Bambi bucket for fire suppression or civil band radios or a new infrared searchlight, we look to industry for the most capable and modern equipment. The National Guard has its own congressional appropriations and is more than willing to commit funds against smart solutions to civil support shortfalls, as these are generally not funded by the active Army. As mentioned earlier, aside from being on the governor's team, the Army National Guard Aviation is a critical member of the Army Aviation Team, the aviation enterprise. As such, we have important aviation assets that complement as well as supplement active component capabilities. The Guard operates 4 aviation training sites to complement what's at Fort Rucker. The Western Aviation Training Site, located at Marana, Arizona, qualifies aviators from all components on the UH-60 and the UH-72. In the east, located in Indiantown Gap, is the Eastern Aviation Training Site, EATS, which qualifies aviators from all components as well on the UH-60, CH-47, and the UH-72. The High Altitude Aviation Training Site, located at Eagle, Colorado, trains all aviators from all components, as well as aviators from different services and nations on power management and mountain flying techniques. And finally, Fixed-Wing Aviation Training Site, located at FWATS in Bridgeport, West Virginia, trains aviators from all components on the C-12 as well as the C-26. The Army National Guard also operates most of the Army's fixed-wing fleet through the Operational Support Airlift Agency. In addition to providing intra-CONUS transportation for all components, it provides fixed-wing combat crews and aircraft for combatant commanders as needed. At the installation level, the Army National Guard also manages 47 airfields, heliports, and landing strips, supporting military flights from all components as well as civilian traffic. And finally, the Army National Guard operates 4 regional theater aviation sustainment support groups, TASMs, 1 in each California, Missouri, Connecticut, and Mississippi. While these primarily support Guard aviation support facilities in each state, they also help execute the National Maintenance Training Program, which performs sustainment level maintenance on all components. Sir?
Army National Guard Aviation is not without its challenges. Loss of the C-23, upcoming reductions of the C-12 inventory will challenge our Armies to fulfill long-distance transport and priority movement. Certainly, ARI is going to cause some turbulence as we work through that. And our operating budgets will challenge Army National Guard aviation leaders to find creative ways to ensure ARFGEN-based readiness requirements are met. But on the other hand, we remain excited about the future. Today, the Army National Guard has leaders that have been combat hardened in the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan. Its soldiers are well schooled, well experienced, and well led. The Guard force has built a collective proficiency level not seen since World War II. Our Director's ARFGEN strategy will ensure the Guard remains an operational reserve to the combatant commanders. In summary, the Army National Guard stands ready to sustain the competence and reputation it built during the past 12 years of combat. Its aviation professionals will continue to provide the Army and the nation with the best value aviation force that can meet any mission, domestic and overseas. We remain forward deployed, geographically dispersed, always ready, always there, an aviation force that will respond and will be ready tonight. That concludes our formal comments, and we'll open it up for questions. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Sure.
Hi there, Brendan McGarry with military.com. I was just hoping you could comment a little bit more about the aviation restructuring plans and specifically how that would impact the Guard. You mentioned, I think you used the word turbulence. Can you just comment a little bit more about that and possibly share some specifics about what that would mean on the ground in the States for you guys?
Well, under the ARI plan, we're going to transfer our Apache units to the active duty, and that'll cause us to restructure them into assault battalions and assault units. So we'll go through a period of time to retrain our attack soldiers to be utility pilots, crew chiefs, maintainers. We'll also make some adjustments in some other states not directly affected by the Apache divestiture, because as we are losing a couple hundred Apaches, our Kiowa Warriors are getting 111 Blackhawks back. That's about 27 flying companies, and we're getting 9 flying companies back. So to help balance that in those 9 states, we're going to move some other structure from some other states, our larger Blackhawk states, and move some of that structure into those 9 states to try and balance that a little bit better. So that turbulence will take some time to resolve as we work through the process over the period of ARI, which starts in really it's already started in many cases, but directly affects the Guard essentially starting in FY16, although we'll be taking some measures in the remaining part of this year and through 15 to begin to position our units to begin the transition that'll essentially start in 16 and finish in 19.
Did you have a slide on which states were affected or which would be most affected, and then how long that transition might take?
We don't have a slide with us here. No. Okay. But it'll take, that 4 years is the process that our ARI will take. How long the turbulence, we're working through the refinement of that now, and I think General Lundy briefed earlier today during his session that we're going to come back towards the latter part of May to kind of refine that a little bit more. We're working with the states to develop that. We're getting some feedback. We pushed out, I would say, a 70% plan to the Adjutant General several weeks ago, and now we're working through the refinement of that plan, and then we'll begin executing. There will be. There are some states that are a little bit more affected than other states, yes. No, not right now. Like I said, we're refining that plan, and so it'll be a little bit of time before we get it to where we want it.
It's pre-decisional at this point. The staff, my staff, we've begun working some staff actions, developing some courses of action on how we get after this. As General Bobeck said, we're going to lose 222 aircraft. We're going to get back 111. And obviously the states that have Apaches and Tennessee, our Kiowa Squadron Tennessee unit, there's 10 states there that are affected. So the challenge is to get the right structure with the right capability. And we like to say we're going to have to spread the peanut butter a little bit, but you're not going to simply move aircraft without people and structure. You got to have structure in there so we have people to maintain it and fly it and to utilize it. So that's a process. ARI, there's been a number of ARIs over the last 15, 20 years. We like to call this ARI 3. That's not what the name of it is, but we've been through this before. It's painful. It's painful whether you're losing one aircraft or multiple aircraft because there's lots of people involved. So we're early in the process. We're step 2 of a 238-step process, but we do have a plan, and we will execute that plan, and we're planning to implement the decision has been to implement.
Hi, Jen Judson with Inside the Army. I'm wondering if the active Army has given you a sense of when you might expect to see some of those Black Hawk L models that they've promised you rolling into your component. Is there a timeline yet that's been ironed out that they've promised you those aircraft?
We're synchronized with the Army in that, and like I said, our portion of the plan, at least in the draft, starts in 16. So we'll start working through that, both transferring Apaches and picking up Blackhawks in approximately that time frame.
And do you believe that the trade-off will happen where you'll maybe give them some Apaches and you'll get back some Blackhawks, or do you expect to end up giving them all?
It won't be perfect math.
Okay.
You know, the optimal solution is an aircraft would land and another aircraft would take off. It's unlikely that it's going to be synchronized at that level of detail. We're hopeful, and that's the staff. We're going to continue to plan for that, for that cause, or if you will, or for that action. But it's unlikely. So there's going to be a trade-off, and we're going to have to move aircraft amongst the 54 states to meet and to ensure that we don't have those capability gaps for too long. But there's also a training piece in there that has to be synchronized as well. And really the training needs to begin, we need to start thinking and planning for that now, and we are, because that's really the long pole.
And I know this is still in flux now, but the Navy has said that they may cut some of their Seahawks or all of their Seahawks in FY16, and that could affect the Black Hawk M model contract. And I'm wondering if that would affect anything that you're planning in terms of receiving Black Hawk M models.
We're not familiar with anything yet at this point. We are scheduled to field Black Hawk Mike models that were previously pre-ARI planned in 15. Don't know what potentially the Navy implications are on future fieldings.
I guess the good news is the 111 Blackhawks, the Limas, the Army has already. So those aren't new purchases. We're going to just be moving them between components. And the challenge, again, is synchronizing those to the right units at the right place at the right time. That's what we've been told by the Army, and that's what they've committed to, and that's our plan.
But we'll take Mike's.
Newer is better.
Gentlemen, thank you. I understand, now this is just my understanding, I don't know any of this to be fact, but I understand out of the attrition of Apaches to the active component that not all of them will be assigned to operational TOE units, and that approximately 170 Apaches are going to be put in the operational ready fleet somewhere. Am I anywhere near on target with this understanding?
There's going to be some aircraft that'll go through the reman line and then there'll be some capability with aircraft, but the specifics I would ask you to talk to the active guys on that, because we don't have the details of where every tail number is going to at this point. But we understand that there'll be some additional aircraft that aren't directly assigned. We're not certain on the numbers yet. And that team, the active Army guys, are handling the movement of the aircraft. And like I said, we're working the details we'll continue to work the details of the transfer of our Apaches and then the reception of the Blackhawks. But the specific timelines aren't fully detailed out. Sir.
I guess just based on the presentation and just kind of the tone, it sounds like you're very much moving forward with this plan, even though it appears as though it's unofficial. I mean, it was included in a budget request. The Congress is obviously just getting started on the debate around this plan. Can you just comment on sort of how your planning has already begun, even though this is I guess pre-decisional or unofficial?
Well, the decision's been made, to move forward with ARI by, as General Campbell said earlier today. So we're working through the mechanics of implementation and execution, and that's going to take some time to do that. We're working to develop the execution part of that. And as I said, we've worked with our states to develop a pre-decisional 70% staffing solution, and then we're working, getting feedback from the states, and then we'll further refine and develop that plan going forward, working with Fort Rucker to synchronize the training of our soldiers, and as well as to determine where we could bring additional capabilities with our Eastern Area Training Center and our Western Area Training Center, EATS and WATS, and then where we can perhaps surge to provide some additional capability, we'll work to try and do that so we can reduce that turbulence time as we convert.
Yeah, let's be clear. ARI, the decision to implement ARI has been decided. What's pre-decisional is which state gets what and how much.
Right.
That's the part that is the refinement piece. Right. And there's some science and there's some art involved in there.
Gentlemen, at a recent town hall by Major General Collier, he mentioned that all the T-67s will be retired shortly. Will that transition affect the Guard in any way? Any states or moving assets from the Guard to Rucker for IERW?
Well, ARI has, there's been many versions of ARI. One of the initial versions was the Army was going to need approximately 104 of our UH-72 Lakotas to go to Fort Rucker to augment what they had at Fort Rucker. OSD, subsequent to that, has stepped in and through an RMD directed that the Army was going to buy another 100 Lakotas. In 15, there's a number. I think it's 15. And 16, there's another number. The challenge or the threat for us, the Army and the Guard specifically, if the Budget Control Act is in effect and the dollars aren't there in FY16, then the Army would still be short about 45 or so Lakotas. And that's where they would have to come back to the Army National Guard and get Lakotas out our formations. As we said in our briefing, our Lakotas are absolutely key and linchpin to what we do domestically for our governors and for our tags and for our citizens. Floods, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, southwest border, counter-drug. Those aircraft were specifically purchased for the Army National Guard to do that mission set and do that role. And frankly, they're doing a good job. So our chief, General Grass, has said our requirement is 212. We have 192 today. So we're almost there with our aircraft or with our objective aircraft buy. And 212 is and remains the requirement for the UH-72 fleet.
Guys, you said earlier that that this whole process is losing aircraft to be replaced by other aircraft. And I will submit to you that we're not only losing aircraft, we are losing capability, and in a very amazingly short time period, we're going to be losing a culture, and that is the culture of the armed reconnaissance aviator and the attack aviator. And I'm not growling about it, but I am looking, a decade out at the replacement for the armed reconnaissance helicopter. And what do you see as a role of the Guard in armed reconnaissance when and if it's ever developed and fielded?
You want that one, sir? That's a hard one.
Sir, certainly as everybody has stated before, our Army and our Army National Guard aviation program is built around our people, and the platforms we give them allows them to provide superb capability to our Army, to our nation, to our coalition partners. The loss of the Apache and the armed reconnaissance aircraft, and then thus the skill sets will erode over time. I would say that we've gone through, as Mark indicated earlier, several aviation transformations over the last 15, 20 years that I've been associated with Army Guard aviation. So I would say that in our 377-year history, we've changed a number of times. And conditions change, budgets change, the threat out there may change. Conditions may change that may dictate some other decision in the future that could put us back. And I think that's the role of the Guard, is that long-term capability that we, and the experience that we bring with our formations, that the longevity that we have in our communities with those types of organizations, and I think we can adapt. And we will adapt, as we have for 377 years.
Is the future of our reconnaissance going to be the unmanned aerial system? This is your opinion. I'm just trying to look ahead, and I'm seeing the combination of the attack aircraft and unmanned aerial systems. And do you ever see a point of us going back?
Sir, I don't know at this point. I mean, we are moving ahead, and I know there's a man-to-unmanned teaming breakout going on right now. I would have liked to listen to it a little bit myself to see some of the directions. There's certainly some terrific capabilities, and for what we've heard and seen already in terms of the capabilities that the E-model has demonstrated with the Shadow. I think when you start looking at the potential future as we learn more and develop TTPs with that, I think the sky's the limit, really. It's going to be the integration of technology and personnel to be able to have that long-range sensor. I mean, we lead the world in UAS technology and how we integrate it and implement that technology. So I think it's too early to tell whether we would go back. But I know in some of the Air Force folks, I've heard the last fighter pilot's been born. They're looking at UASs to the future. I don't know if that applies to Apache pilots or scout drivers just yet. Any other questions?
Sir, the Army still has a validated requirement for an armed aerial scout. That was stipulated and stated earlier. So although nobody liked this decision, the Army didn't, and the Guard certainly didn't like it for many reasons. It was budget driven, and we're forced now to, or we are in the implementation, planning the implementation phase. So there still remains an armed aerial scout requirement out there. What that looks like 3 or 4 budget cycles from now, we don't know. I mean, I'm still hopeful that someday we'll have an armed aerial scout, and those armed aerial scout formations will be in Compo 2 as well as Compo 1. But for right now, I'm dealing with the reality and the here and the now, and the here and the now and the physics as we're moving out on ARNG.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, again, on behalf of General Alliance, Colonel Weiss, myself, Army National Guard is always ready, always there. And on behalf of our 358,000 soldiers, men and women, I want to thank you for stopping in this afternoon to listen to our pitch, and go Guard. Have a great day.